Hey, this is Mark with the Practical Still. We're going to open up another bottle. This one's something a little different these days. This is Redbreast12 Irish single pot still whiskey. I love this whiskey. I think the reason I don't buy it more often is when I first bought it, I bought it on sale for about $40. And I think it's a great whiskey at $40. But the normal retail price is around $60. I never felt that, but it's 12 years old. Single pot still is an interesting thing that started, I believe it started because of taxation, because the malt in Scotland and Ireland was taxed differently than an unmalted grain whiskey. And so they began to blend unmalted barley with the malted barley to get around that tax. And then by the time they sorted all that out, people just kind of got used to it, and it's a cool style of Irish whiskey. It's quite possible. This is aged 12 years. It doesn't say, and I'm sure I could look it up and probably figure it out, but there's some sherry barrels involved. There's some probably ex-bourbon barrels involved. It just says 12 years in the finest oak casks. It's clearly sherried when you drink it, but it's not a finish. It was matured for a lot of those 12 years, if not all of it, some of that whiskey, all of it, those 12 years, in sherry cask, and that's where the sherry flavoring comes from. It is bottled at 40%, and I believe the Irish used the percentage, but it is 80 proof. And you might think, as an American whiskey drinker, well, I just don't want an 80 proof whiskey, but I encourage you to give this a try. It's a little different than an American whiskey that's 6 or 7 years old or 8 years old at 80 proof. That's going to be pretty thin. After 12 years and having the influence of used barrels in there, I think you'll find, as I do, that it's hard to open, but more importantly, the extra time in those different casks imparts some really interesting flavors, and you end up with a different mouthfeel than you would on, say, a bourbon that's been aged and then bottled at 80 proof. So I encourage you to give it a try. It's long been one of my favorites. And again, the price thing kind of hits me. I just never thought it was a $60 whiskey. It happened that recently my favorite local store had it on sale for $45. I would clearly pay $45 for it, but a lovely color. I believe it's a natural color, uncolored. The legs are great. The nose is just fabulous, and you can get the sherry on the nose, but clearly it wasn't all sherry barrels. At least I wouldn't think it is. It's definitely light on the palate. There's good flavor in there. It's not, I don't know, the pot still piece where there's a mix of unmalted and malted grain gives it a light mouthfeel, but there's plenty of flavor. It is not going to bowl you over. It's not a cask strength whiskey. But if you find them for $40 or $45, it's something different, especially if you're bringing new people into drinking rye whiskeys or even single malts. This is something that's super approachable. I think it's delicious. I think you ought to give it a try, even if the 80 proof scares you off. And I'll tell you this, if you just can't get past the 80 proof part, but you want to give it a try, they also do it in a cask strength. Same 12 years, same aging process, depends on the batch, but 55.8%, so 111.6 proof. Try that one. You won't get it for $45, but if you just can't get past the proof, which I encourage you to try to do, there is a cask strength version. Cheers.